Being an only child is really fucking weird, and I don't see enough people talking about it on the internet. In my life, as I meet people and make new friends, I've realized that I think I've only met three or four only children. It's surprisingly common that people have siblings. So it's not often that I can relate with someone about the true experience of being an only child. And it's very interesting. I'd say the first thing that I noticed that I have never been able to do is commiserate about my parents. Now, luckily for me, I had really good parents. Not flawless by any means, not perfect, but close to. There wasn't really anything that I had to discuss with my imaginary sibling of things that they were causing to me or problems that they were doing to me or any harm or abuse. So that was fine. There was no need for a sibling in that sense, but it would have been nice when things got boring or just in instances where I was in trouble to have someone check that and see if the arbiters of truth were in bounds or not. I just had to go off of my own perception of what they were doing without being able to check with anyone else if that's normal or okay. But for the most part, it was justified and normal and okay, so I can't really complain about anything. But that's an experience that I missed. So if you're watching this video and you're about to have an only child, or you are an only child, I hope you'll relate to it. Leave a subscribe, be my first one. And yeah, so that was the first one. I think the second thing that was really interesting was that I got lucky and that I had a pseudo sibling relationship that really helped me develop that feeling of brotherhood or sisterhood without truly having it. So my parents, we came to Canada from Romania. So I was an immigrant and they didn't really have many friends here. And my dad happened to run into the street to a friend he tangentially knew in university, and those guys ended up becoming like my pseudo family. They they had two sons, both only children, both around my age, and then there was two sisters as part of this kind of pseudo family group that were a bit older that were also part of this. So there was five of us kids, kind of growing up together. Every weekend the parents would hang out, and so would we. So that kind of felt nice because it kind of gave me that feeling of that camaraderie, because all of my cousins were back in Romania, so I didn't really have any of that. I was kind of isolated, but I had that feeling, and it was really nice to have that. I never really felt alone, and it was nice to be with other only children because we kind of commiserated about our experience. No, we didn't really talk about it as kids because why would you? But it just kind of felt like there was someone else there for us. And the nice thing was is that when they would do vacations or instances where I'd be truly isolated with my parents, I wasn't. Or events. We'd go to the beach, they'd be there. We'd do an event, they'd be there. Christmas, they'd be there. So it was really nice to kind of have that sibling there for me in an instance where you would have had a sibling there if you had one, but if you didn't, you wouldn't. So I kind of grew up in a weird hybrid environment. I think that's the one thing that I would recommend to a parent thinking of raising a child is make sure that they have these people in their lives that they don't feel truly alone. If they go on a vacation with you, they don't feel truly alone. And I think that it would have been fine regardless. And I think it's more of a contingency on how you want to raise your child and how friendly versus how parental you want to be. But that was really nice to have that person there for me all throughout my life. Those people there that were like cousins, like brothers, like sisters, to keep me company in those instances where you don't normally have that. So that was the other thing. And then I think the one thing that I had to learn too was how to share and stuff. Like those are things that inherently you don't think about teaching your kid that because I never had to share leftovers. I never had to do that because my parents were just, I was spoiled to some degree, and whatever I wanted to eat in the fridge I got to. Like it's not like they were like, no, that's mine. Like it was kind of fair game and they didn't really go crazy with it. So that's something that's important to do and you might slip your mind. And I typically only really learned how to share after getting my first girlfriend in high school, and she had siblings, and I'd go there on weekdays, and I'd learn that all the leftovers weren't for me and that I had to resource manage and share stuff in the house. So shit like that is really stupid, but you have to be mindful of that as a parent or as an only child. Is like you have to learn how to share, and like And now I think that sharing is really important to me, more so than other people, because that's something that I wasn't brought up on, and I really enjoy the concept of sharing my shit with everyone, because I think it's a lovely way to live. I don't know. So those are three of the main themes, and I think the other thing is, and this is nuanced, I think, is I never have to do chores. I never have to do a single chore. My parents let me grow up a kid, and now I think that it was so great that now in my later years I'm crippled by nostalgia, and I just want to go back to those times because it was just so pleasant. My life growing up was so pleasant. I didn't have to do a chore. I didn't have to do anything. I just had to grow up. I didn't have to have a job. It's not like my parents were super rich, but they had enough money to buy me clothes and all the bullshit that kids with jobs would buy. It's not like kids with jobs, most of them were like supporting their families. Most of them were just had those jobs to buy bullshit. And they would buy me with a reason most of the bullshit I wanted. But that was sweet. Growing up, no chores. And I also think that because my parents did those chores and I saw them doing it, the second I moved out, I really just took those on because it's not like I had a life of being jaded by doing those things. That's what is required to keep my home in the same stasis and state that it was when I was growing up. So I'm just going to do that. Stuff like vacuuming, cleaning, wiping counters, dusting. I do those weekly, no problem. My house is probably cleaner than 99% of people's because these are things that I just saw my parents doing in the environment that I grew up in. I want to continue living in that environment because it makes me feel comfortable. So I'm going to continue doing those things, and that's just normal. But I never had to do those things growing up, and that was awesome. I got to really be a child. I got to be a kid. And I think that's the dark side, is you give your kid too good of a life, and they're crippled by nostalgia, and they just want to go back. So all of these to consider when you're having an only child. More ramblings to come. Subscribe. I love you. Bye.